Imagine you're a young child in the year 1348 and you've just been struck with a deadly illness. Looking out your window, you see nothing but fire. You have no idea what's going on and you're very scared. You're in so much pain from the illness that you can't move and you're starving because even your own parents are too afraid to come near you. You watch as your mother runs out the door, fearing only for her life, and she abandons you to die alone. As horrible as it sounds, this is what millions of children faced in the years of 1348 to 1350 when the Black Death swept through medieval Europe. The plague created such fear in Europe that its citizens abandoned their cities, homes, and even their lives. Believing the world was ending, people spent their last days drunk and starving. Even those with the best morals locked themselves in their homes and abandoned humanity altogether. According to the Black Death, 1348 by eyewitnesstohistory.com, the plague arrived in Italy in the year 1348. The plague was being carried by the crew members and rats on a ship that had come from the east across the Black Sea. And here I have a map to show how it came out of the Black Sea and went to Italy and then made its way to England. Here I can see that. By the time the ship had reached the shore of Italy, there weren't many survivors, and the ones who had survived had no idea what they were about to unleash on Europe. As soon as the crew made their way into the crowds of the local inhabitants, people started dying that very day. The plague is usually referred to as the bubonic plague, but there are actually other versions. The plague presented itself in three forms known as the bubonic plague, the pneumonic plague, and the septicemic plague. The bubonic plague, which was the most common of the form, was devastating its victims with tumors that invaded the lymph nodes under the armpits and in the groin or neck area. These tumors were so painful that in most cases the plague's victims couldn't move. According to the Black Death 1348 by eyewitnesstohistory.com, once the person started developing the tumors, they were expected to die within hours. As if dying soon after wasn't enough, these tumors would commonly burst through the skin and bleed. The pneumonic plague wasn't any more forgiving towards the victims it ravished. With the pneumonic plague, the disease would inhabit the person's lungs, forming holes that would usually cause profuse bleeding, which would commonly lead to drowning its victims to death. The life expectancy for this form of the plague was at the most 1 to 2 days if the person was lucky, but most died within the first day. The least common form of the plague, the septicemia version, attacked the person's blood and caused multiple organ failure soon after. Although this was the least common, it was also the most deadly. Once the plague destroyed Italy, it moved to its next helpless territory. According to the article, The Black Death in England in 1348 to 50, written by David, the plague reached England in the summer of 1348 and began consuming the lives of more victims. The English began to believe the plague marked the end of the world. Mass chaos was erupting all over England to the point that people were even setting fire to and murdering those of religious minorities. As if it weren't enough that England was being taken by this horrible disease, now they were being judged as evil. According to the Black Death in England in 1348 to 50, the bordering Scots thought that the plague was being used by God as a punishment on England. The Scots even formed an army to take down England, but before the Scots could invade, they had lost their numbers to the plague. Consequently, the Scottish army brought the plague back with them to their hometown where it began its rampage there as well. The Black Death continued its journey across Europe, striking other helpless countries. Although Italy and England were the first in Europe to see the devastating effects of the plague, unfortunately they weren't the last. According to The Black Death by James F. Dunnigan and Albert A. Nafi, the plague also struck Ireland, France, Belgium, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire, taking again millions of lives and leaving permanent scars. France suffered the biggest loss as far as population goes, leaving them with only 63% of their original population. And then here I have a chart showing the different countries in Europe that were hit by the plague and their pre-plague population, post-plague population, and then the percentage of their total population that they lost. There's that. The Black Death finally settled down in 1350. No one knows for sure the true devastation that Europe endured during 1348 to 1350. And according to the Black Death in England in 1348 to 50 by David, the Black Death represented a massive upheaval, one which changed the face of society in a profound way. In conclusion, the Black Death first hit Italy in the year 1348. Then it made its way throughout the rest of Europe, killing millions of people and leaving a lot of devastation behind. The struggles that the Black Death caused for medieval Europe are still mourned to this very day, and will probably be mourned forever in Europe.